Meloni claims she will put traditional Italians and their values first, but her opponents say she could take Italy down the path of illiberal democracies such as Hungary.
Meloni's party has ideological roots in Italy's neo-fascist movement, a movement that gained traction after dictator Benito Mussolini. And her agenda, drawing criticism.
Io sono Giorgia, sono una donna, sono una madre, sono italiana, sono cristiana, non me lo toglierete! Non me lo toglierete!
Global media calls her far-right leader, borderline extremist and fascist. But for Italians, she is their new Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, the country's first woman to hold this position. She hails from the Brothers of Italy party, an outfit tracing its roots to the post-fascist National Alliance and the Italian social movement, founded by the members of the banned National Fascist Party. In the last elections, the Brothers of Italy party won just 4% votes. This time, however, the party bagged 26% votes, making it the largest of all. Two burning issues played a key role in its success. First, the Russia-Ukraine war, and the second, immigration. For long, Italy has borne the brunt of droves of immigrants rushing to its shores from North Africa and the Middle East. In 2020, around 10% of the total population of Italy had an immigration background. This gave rise to political as well as social tensions in the country. Migrants hailing from Islamic nations contributed a lot to the widespread social tensions. A Pew Research Center report revealed that about 60% Italians held negative views about Muslims dwelling in their nation. These sentiments were fueled by a slew of Islamist attacks in France and UK. Italians feared for their safety since every one of 3 immigrants coming illegally to Italy was Muslim. Banking on such sentiments, Meloni's populism got wings.
Siamo a Marsciano, in Umbria, in un sito dove dovrebbe nascere un'altra moschea, per dire no. No alla nascita di nuove moschee. No fin quando non verranno approvate le norme che Fratelli d'Italia chiede a tutela della sicurezza dei cittadini.
In an interview with the Washington Post, Meloni last month said, "The smart approach is, you come to my house according to my rules." She would say, migrant flows need to be managed because nations only exist if there are borders and if those are defended. This is exactly what puts her at odds with the European Union. When the news of Meloni's victory reached Brussels, the EU reacted with a tough warning for Italy. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, warned that it had tools that will be used against Italy if it drifts towards illiberalism. What are those tools, you may ask? Ask Hungary and Poland. When the pandemic struck EU economies back in 2020, the EU announced aid worth $200 billion to member nations. However, the aid was tied to a vague condition: rule of law standards. Only those nations would get aid whom the EU deemed fit and liberal enough. So, first Hungary and then Poland was denied access to aid worth billions of dollars. Ironically, both nations are governed by right-wing parties. Now, EU says that it can cut down Italy's share of aid if rule of law in the nation is not maintained. This is big deal for the Italian economy. At around 150%, Italy's public debt to GDP ratio is now the highest in that country's history and the second highest in the Eurozone, after Greece. Meanwhile, Italy's per capita income today is barely higher than it was in 1999 when Italy joined the euro. So EU hopes to stop Meloni's juggernaut using economic means. And that's why it is feared that calls for its exit or Italy's exit from EU may grow louder under her watch. Meloni may be disliked by a bunch of left-leaning leaders occupying offices at EU, but she is madly popular with a fast-expanding right-leaning group of European leaders. Hungary's Viktor Orban and France's Marine Le Pen are such leaders. After Meloni's victory, the French nationalist leader cheered, "Well done Giorgia Meloni and Matteo Salvini for having resisted the threats of an anti-democratic and arrogant European Union, obtaining this great victory." The Hungarian government, led by Orban, did not betray its emotions when it said that in these difficult times, we need more than ever friends who share a common vision and approach to Europe's challenges. In Spain, the far-right party Vox concluded that Meloni's victory showed the path of a new Europe of free and sovereign nations. It is hardly a secret that all these leaders have a lot in common, along with their shared amicable ties with the Russian Federation and its leader Vladimir Putin. The elections in Italy were held after the premature exit of Mario Draghi, a pro-EU left leader who seemed to have shared EU's hatred for Russia. But Meloni is different. Her relations with Putin are driven by pragmatism rather than EU's Russophobia. But many in Europe and the US doubt her intentions. In September, US intelligence released a damning report claiming that Putin had given $300 million to political parties in more than 12 countries. The announcement jolted Italy's election campaign and prompted right-wing leaders to swiftly deny receiving clandestine cash. It was clear that US tried to meddle in Italy's elections by slandering the right bloc. But the Biden administration campaign miserably failed. Meloni's bonhomie with Putin might irk hawkish leaders in EU and Washington, but that is already proving a boon for the Italian economy. Since Russia is Europe's largest gas supplier, good ties with Putin means Italy might soon access Russian energy. After Meloni's victory, Russia has declared it will resume gas deliveries to Italy via the Trans-Austria gas pipeline after suspending them last month due to transportation issues in Austria. The Russian energy giant Gazprom said earlier this month, transportation of Russian gas through the territory of Austria is resuming as a solution was found with Italian buyers following regulatory changes in Austria. Before the war in Ukraine, Italy imported 95% of its gas consumption, about 45% of which came from Russia. So by resuming gas supplies to Italy, Russia has signaled that countries with Russia-dove leaders won't have to face an energy crisis. This notion will only fuel pro-Russia sentiments in Europe as people grow wary of skyrocketing inflation. This will pit EU countries against each other and help Russia greatly. Consequently, its reckless sanctions against Russia will end up destroying unity among the bloc. With the rise of anti-EU leaders like Orban, Marine Le Pen and Meloni, EU will soon find itself racing against time to evade its collapse. And if EU fails to align itself with the new realities, its end within the next 10 years is inevitable.
India's World, telling the right side of the story.